Does Jackson Arnold have that much to prove?
You are Locked On Sooners, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma Sooners. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Locked On Sooners, and thank you for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply over at Gametime. My name is John Williams. You can follow me on Twitter at John9Williams. The show is at Locked On Sooners. And shout out to all the everydayers out there for making Locked On Sooners their first listen every single day. Jay is on vacation, going to be back with us this week, but enjoying a little time off with the fam. But the first thing we're going to talk about is some quarterback rankings coming out from that SEC podcast posted over there by one Michael W. Bratton at SEC Mike or SEC Mike at Michael W. Bratton. And the 2024 SEC quarterback rankings are pretty interesting. We'll just say that much to get started. Jackson Arnold comes in at number 10 on this list. And I honestly don't have too much of a problem with where Jackson Arnold ranks. He is going into his first year as a starter. We all know the talent is immense. We all know that he's got the big arm. He's got the accuracy. He's got the size, the athleticism, the mobility. He's going to be a big time player. The fact that he's coming in at number 10, to me, it just is a signal that, okay, he just hasn't proven anything yet at the FBS level. He's got a lot of accolades. He's got the 5-star ranking. He's got the Gatorade National Player of the Year. He's got the Elite 11 MVP award, but still only one start under his belt, a half of football against BYU. And that's really not enough to make an informed decision about where he sits. Now let's go down the list of where all these quarterbacks rank in these quarterback rankings. We'll start with number 9, Connor Weigman. This is a guy that a lot of people thought was off to a great start in 2023, got banged up a little bit, and that season kind of went off the rails for Weigman, for the Aggies. Jimbo Fisher fired. Garrett Nussmeier taken over for Jaden Daniels, who won the Heisman Trophy at LSU last year. Nussmeier, okay, he's a solid quarterback. I'm not quite ready to put him even above Connor Weigman. I think that's a little bit rich unless you're just anticipating that he's going to be able to be very productive in this offense. We'll see. I'm not sold on the LSU Tigers offense. I'm not really sold on their defense going into 2024. They lost a lot, and that defense has a lot of ground to make up from where they were a year ago. Graham Mertz at Florida. Again, this is a guy, okay, pretty good at Wisconsin, transfers to Florida, has a really solid year. Maybe he's better than Jackson Arnold right now based on what he's proven, but I don't necessarily think in the long term we're going to look at this thing and think, oh yeah, Graham Mertz was a better quarterback than Jackson Arnold was in 2024. And then you have Nico Iamaleava. Okay, this is the one where I have questions, because if you're putting Jackson Arnold at 10 because he doesn't have enough experience, he hasn't proven enough at the collegiate level, then what are we doing with Nico up at 6? Again, a very talented quarterback, a guy that's going to have a big year, and he's going to have a really nice career in Josh Heupel's offense. There's no doubt about that. But if we're just going based on what we know about the quarterback, which the only reason you rank Jackson Arnold at number 10 is because you don't know enough about him yet, then you got to do the same thing with Nico. You see it in the Heisman odds too. Nico, he's pretty high up there. I mean, he's not necessarily one of the favorites, but he's not as long a shot as Jackson Arnold is. There's a lot of love for Nico. And yes, the Tennessee Volunteers did beat Iowa in the bowl game, and he was solid, but they didn't ask him to throw the football a lot. He ran the ball well, but Josh Heupel kept it very simple for Nico in the bowl game. And that's a credit to Heupel. He knew that with Iowa's offense, he didn't have to put his quarterback at risk. He didn't have to make his quarterback throw the ball 40 times for the Tennessee Volunteers to beat them. He knew that if his quarterback took care of the football, picked up first downs, moved the chains, put 10 to 12 points on the board, there was a pretty good chance that Tennessee was going to beat Iowa in the bowl game. So Josh Heupel didn't have to overexpose Nico on a month of preparation. He didn't have to do that. Jackson Arnold, Oklahoma's offense, they needed a little bit more out of Jackson Arnold because, hey, that Noah Fafita, the offense that Arizona was dealing with and the talented receivers, they knew that they were going to have to go and sling it around a little bit. And it kind of bit them a little bit as Jackson Arnold was trying to figure out what throws he could get away with. And the Arizona defense just made some plays. It came down to a lot of that. Jackson Arnold, one decision that was bad. The rest of them were really, really nice plays by the Arizona defense. So we continue up the list from number 6, Nico, and then number 5, Jalen Milroe, number 4, Quinn Ewers. Okay, I don't hate this kind of area for Quinn and for Jalen. Listen, Quinn Ewers is getting all the hype. He's getting all the love, the prestige, the former 5-star quarterback, the dude that bounced from his South Lake Carroll High School team early to go to Ohio State like a month before the season and transfers from Ohio State to Texas and was good last year. He was good. He wasn't great. He wasn't somebody that you're going to say is a no doubt Heisman contender. I think he still has a lot to prove to assert himself as a Heisman favorite. Could he be in New York when it comes to December? I think it's possible, but I don't necessarily think it's a guarantee. I don't think that necessarily he is a top 5-6 quarterback in college football. I'm just not there with Quinn Ewers just yet. And then you've got Carson Beck, who a lot of people are making the case as the Heisman favorite in 2024. Jackson Dart, who is kind of one of my favorite quarterbacks in the conference because he's got so much experience, because he and the Ole Miss Rebels were able to put up a lot of points last year. Again, a defense, much like LSU's, that wasn't really able to stop people consistently. I expect big things out of Jackson Dart this year. And then at number 1, that SEC podcast has Brady Cook from Missouri. Now, Brady Cook had a great year last year, broke out in a big way, took advantage of arguably the best wide receiver in college football going into 2024, Luther Burden. And I mean, has a chance to have a big year this year. But are we going to sit here and say he's better than Carson Beck? I'm not there. I mean, Carson Beck in his first year as a starter last year was fantastic. He put up big numbers. And I mean, there's reason why Carson Beck is considered the Heisman favorite. And it might just be because he's the better quarterback. These passing numbers, and Carson Beck had a big monster season with the Georgia Bulldogs. It's their team, yeah. Is Georgia's defense going to make things really? Yeah. But let's take a look at this, okay? Carson Beck finished ahead of Brady Cook in yards per attempt, in passing yards, in touchdown passes, and in he wasn't ahead of him in rushing touchdowns. Brady Cook had him beat on that. Carson Beck threw fewer interceptions than Brady Cook and had a better completion percentage than Brady Cook. So I don't know what we're looking at to think that Brady Cook is automatically a better quarterback than Carson Beck. Maybe you're going with the doing more with less, but let's turn this back to Jackson Arnold. I think by the end of the year, we could very much be talking about Jackson Arnold as a top 2 or 3 quarterback in the conference. I very much think that the ceiling for him is being in that Heisman discussion as Oklahoma enters November. Now, how that November goes when you have to face LSU and Alabama and Missouri, what's the last week in October? I mean, that stretch of games is going to be very, very significant for how we view Jackson Arnold and how we view his 2024 season. Now, if he goes out and he plays just okay and Oklahoma wins, I think we'll feel really good about it. If he plays just okay and Oklahoma loses, maybe we'll not be too thrilled with the performance there. But I think he'll do enough in 2024 to put himself at the front of next year's SEC quarterback rankings as one of the short lists for the Heisman in 2025. But going into 2024, not very much respected. But I think he's going to work his way up that list as he proves some of the doubters, some of the naysayers wrong about what he's capable of this season. The Oklahoma Sooners picked up another big-time commitment in the 2025 recruiting cycle. We'll discuss who that is and what he brings to the table coming up next here on Locked On Sooners. Are you looking for last minute tickets? Are you looking for the best prices? We got to go check out Gametime. It is the only place to get last minute tickets, lowest prices to Major League Baseball games during the summer, where they are a authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets faster and easier with killer last minute deals, all in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee. Gametime takes the work out of buying Major League Baseball tickets. So take the guesswork out of tickets for Major League Baseball. Hey, the WWE is coming to the BOK Center in August and September with Friday Night SmackDown. In August to BOK, in September to the Paycom Center, and you can get great tickets over at Gametime. So go download the Gametime app, create an account, use promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply, but again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? Have to turn down the volume with all that shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports Today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And all of our recruiting segments here on the Locked On Network are brought to you by LinkedIn. Post your job for free over at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to get access to the best hiring practices and make hiring easy over at LinkedIn Jobs, linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Omarion Robinson, the 2025 four-star safety, chose the Oklahoma Sooners over the Arkansas Razorbacks, Oregon Ducks, LSU Tigers, a host of big-time programs that were going after the number one player in the state of Arkansas, according to Rivals, a top 125 player, a four-star prospect, and a guy who was the MVP of the Rivals five-star camp. Somebody who might find his name with some five-star recognition, according to Rivals, at least down the road. But Omarion Robinson, a tremendous athlete, a guy who can go get the football in the air. He can play a nice free safety for you. He can play a little bit in the box because he's a physical player as well at the point of attack, but someone who has the athleticism to be sticky in coverage. He has good footwork, and someone who, he could come in next year and compete for a role with Oklahoma's secondary, even though it's going to be really, really deep in 2025, despite the loss of a Billy Bowman, maybe even the loss of a Robert Spears Jennings, if he can go have a breakout year this year. But Omarion Robinson, again, a guy who's considered a four-star prospect. He was he's a number 15 safety in the class, according to Rivals. And again, had offers from all kinds of places: Oklahoma, Arkansas, Oregon, LSU, Texas, Ole Miss, Bama, Georgia, Miami, Auburn, Tennessee. All these cats were in on Robinson, and it's another feather in the cap for Brandon Hall, who has done an incredible job on the recruiting trail since arriving with Brent Venables at the end of the 2022 cycle. We've had Robert Spears Jennings, who, listen, they had to re-recruit him. With the departure of Lincoln Riley, it wasn't a guarantee that he was necessarily going to stick with OU, but Brent Venables, Brandon Hall, they went in, re-recruited him, and kept that commitment. The same Jaden Rowe. Another safety who turned a lot of heads this last year in spring ball, someone who could have a significant impact at the safety position in the 2024 or 2023 cycle. Got the late flip from Peyton Bowen to add him to your safety room. You retained Billy Bowman for a year after the 2023 season, but also picked up big-time commitments from Reggie Powers, who looks like a Herculean type dude that's going to be roaming the back end for Oklahoma's secondary for the next few years. Jaden Hardy, an incredibly athletic safety that is going to make plays on the football. Michael Boganowski, we've already seen the thunder that he brings to the table. And Michael Patterson McDonald, who, despite his size, is a guy that I like to say plays above his weight class. He plays like a dude who's 6'2", 220, as opposed to a 5'10", 190 cat. This is a really, really, really strong safety group that Brandon Hall's put together. Adding Omarion Robinson to it just makes it that much better. Joins Marcus Wimberly in the safety class for 2025. Likely means that Oklahoma's done pursuing safeties unless they're able to get back in the Jonah Williams sweepstakes somehow, some way. It seems like that has trended away from the Oklahoma Sooners, but you never know how these things go. You know, there were a lot of times where it seemed like Oklahoma was out of it with Peyton Bowen. There's been a lot of times where it seems like Oklahoma's out of it with this prospect or the next, and then they're able to turn the tide and get back into the recruitment. But if they're not able to, and they don't end up with a Jonah Williams, Omarion Robinson, Marcus Wimberly, that is a really, really strong safety group for the 2025 cycle. It keeps Oklahoma firmly in the top 10 in the 247 Sports team recruiting rankings. Right now, number 8. They've been fluctuating quite a bit. They've been, as high as 5 and then, dropping back to 10. But as we look at this class and as we look at what Oklahoma's continuing to do and who they're continuing to pursue, there's a pretty good chance that this is going to stay within the top 10. And I mean, that's just kind of the floor for Oklahoma at this point. They've finished top 8 all 3 years under Brent Venables, and I don't imagine that trend stops this year or moving forward. Of course, they're going to have some significant targets still to pursue, even after missing out on Lamont Rogers, who we'll talk about coming up next. But again, adding Omarion Robinson, a dude that, again, very heavily recruited, someone that everybody was hoping to get, and especially Oregon, who's been on this recruiting heater of late. For you to land Omarion Robinson, given what's been going on with the Ducks, and yeah, they're pursuing some 5-star safeties as well, and maybe he wasn't as high a priority, but he was a priority at one point in time. But let's look at what 247 Sports had to say about him. He was a All-American second team selection in the secondary, primarily played safety, also contributed in the return game. And based on his huddle, he's a dude that played some wide receiver as well. He just has that kind of athleticism. And that's the thing that you're excited about with him. And you hope that you can continue to add to that defensive talent. But with Omarion Robinson, I mean, again, your safety depth is incredible. My guy Bryant Cruz over at Sooners Wire had this to say about Robinson just about a month ago. He said, Robinson is a hyper-competitive defender who can disrupt the passing game. He plays great coverage and has the athletic range to be a ball hawk in the middle of the field. His footwork is top-notch, and he's unafraid of coming downhill to make run fits. And then he discussed that he won the defensive MVP at the Rivals 5-Star Challenge. So really, really like what Oklahoma gets in Omarion Robinson. And then all eyes are still on offensive line. Let's discuss what happened with the Lamont Rogers recruitment, where Oklahoma stands, where they look next, and hey, what does it mean? Or does it mean anything? We'll discuss coming up next here on Locked On Sooners. Again, thank you for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. We're free and available on all podcast platforms and on YouTube, so hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell to let you know when new episodes drop. Go drop a 5-star review wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, Google Play, what have you. Do it. Help us out there. Help others find out about the show. Again, Jay will be back with us here on Locked On Sooners starting on Tuesday for our Tuesday episode. So we'll have Jay's thoughts on Omarion Robinson as well as Lamont Rogers. So Lamont Rogers commits to Missouri, and as this recruitment kind of wore down, it seemed like that was the trajectory things were heading. There was a lot of mystery behind this one. Unlike Omarion Robinson, where it seemed like everything was trending Oklahoma's way for like 2-3 weeks, with Lamont Rogers, the buzz was just mixed. You heard Texas, you heard Missouri, you heard Oklahoma, Texas A&M for a bit, but ultimately it came down to Oklahoma and Missouri, and it's Missouri that wins out. And you can sit there and you can point to any number of reasons why Lamont Rogers might commit to Missouri. They're building something there. Eli Drinkwitz is doing a really, really good job. They're capitalizing on that 10-11 win season that they had last year. There's nothing more you can say. Obviously, listen, if NIL is a part of it, it is what it is. I've said it on the show a number of times. If you're an everydayer here on Locked On, you've heard me say it, and you're probably getting tired of hearing me say it. But NIL is part of the game, and it's all in the game. And if Missouri decided they were going to make a significant move towards Lamont Rogers on that front, it's just all in the game. But I mentioned it over on the Locked On Sooners Twitter account. Make sure you check us out there, follow it. But there are any number of reasons why a commit or a recruit might commit to a place. NIL is one of those factors. Coaching is one of those factors. Position coach relationship is one of those factors. Personality fit with the head coach, offensive coordinator, position coach, that matters. Personality fit with the university and the campus and the town that you're in. How you get along with the guys that are going to be in the offensive line room. All that kind of stuff matters. And that's not to say that he wouldn't have been a fit. That's not to say that Lamont Rogers didn't enjoy his time at Oklahoma, didn't consider that a place where he could go play football. Obviously, he very significantly thought highly of Oklahoma. He just liked the fit better with Missouri for whatever reason. Even if it was an NIL thing that made the difference for him, so be it. But if that's all that made the difference, then Oklahoma was right there. And I know everybody's kind of screaming for Bill Bedenbaugh and how come he can't win any of these recruiting battles? Well, let's just wait a minute on that. Let's just wait a tick, because he has won these recruiting battles. He got Caden Green to commit in the 2023 recruiting cycle. And what happened with Caden Green transferring out, I think that's a bit out of his control. A lot of it, as we've come to learn, came down to kind of a misunderstanding on the NIL front between the university and Green and his family. And whatever ended up happening, he just wanted out and he wanted to go to Missouri. And you can't put that necessarily square on the offensive coordinator's shoulders, or not the offensive line coach's shoulders. I mean, the kid got to play as a true freshman at guard and very well could have moved out to tackle. We don't know what the whole plan was. And so the Oklahoma Sooners now will turn their attention to Michael Fasusi, because Ty Haywood looks like he's significantly trending towards Alabama. They'll also turn their attention to Andrew Babalola, who is considering Oklahoma and Stanford and Michigan. Fasusi considering Oklahoma and Texas. To a lesser extent, maybe Texas A&M. But Oklahoma has, throughout this entire cycle, I feel like they've had one offensive line prospect that's been their top priority, and that's Michael Fasusi. As much as they would have taken Lamont Rogers and they would take Ty Haywood and they would take Andrew Babalola, their number one priority, I feel like for this entire cycle, has been Michael Fasusi. And that's not to say that all their eggs are in that one basket, because they have a commitment from Ryan Foje, a top 100 player in the 2025 class, a top 10 offensive tackle prospect. I know Lamont Rogers was the recent recruiting battle that they were in, but let's not sleep on Ryan Foje. Let's remember how quickly he came on everybody's radar over the last between August and February, and how quickly that recruitment went. Remember, he got his offer 2 months after he camped with Oklahoma last summer. So got his offer in August, committed to Oklahoma January or February. And he definitely wants to be a Sooner. You talk about wanting guys that want to be there. Well, Ryan Foje is that guy that wants to be there. Again, a top 100 offensive tackle prospect, someone with a really, really strong senior year, could earn a top 50 status and a top 5 offensive tackle status and maybe a 5-star status. Similar to like a PJ Adebaware, who was a very late riser in the class. And so, yes, you don't want to miss out on prospects. You hate losing recruiting battles. One, it's just bad pub. But two, especially bad pub to lose to a school like Missouri. But two, again, don't sleep on the fact that, hey, Michael Fasusi has been their number one offensive tackle priority in this class. And two, you've got Ryan Foje in this class. So even if okay, if you are able to land the Michael Fasusi thing, I think it quiets everybody. But you got to land that Michael Fasusi commitment. Yes, the stars matter. They don't always matter. Guys can outperform their rating. 100% they can. But the stats don't lie that guys that are blue chip prospects have a greater likelihood of success at the collegiate level and a greater likelihood of success at the NFL level than guys that are 3-star, 2-star prospects. And that brings me to Bill Bedenbaugh. We do not need to worry about what Oklahoma is going to get out of their offensive line this year and in the future, because you have one of the best offensive line coaches in the country in Bill Bedenbaugh. We've seen him take guys that 2-3 years ago were playing tight end and defensive end and turn them into a first-round offensive tackle. I should say help turn them into a first-round offensive tackle. We saw him take a guy like Anton Harrison, help him get the start as a true freshman, play 3 really, really strong years, go be a first-round offensive tackle. We saw him take a guy like Creed Humphrey, a 3-star prospect, who is now the best center in the NFL, help him become a second-round pick. And again, help him become the best center in the NFL, a multi-time Super Bowl winning champion. And the list goes on and on. Ben Powers, Cody Ford, Orlando Brown, Wanye Morris, Walter Rouse. I mean, there's a number of guys that have spent time with Bill Bedenbaugh that have become either significant contributors at Oklahoma and absolute stars, and a number of guys that have gone on to have significant success, not just be on a roster, but significant success. Orlando Brown, I mean, he started with the Ravens and then he went to KC, helped solidify that offensive line, helped Patrick Mahomes win a title, then went and got a big significant paycheck by the Bengals. So what are we talking about here? Bill Bedenbaugh is good at his job. And if there are prospects out there that don't value that development and don't value him as a developer, you have to ask, what are the priorities? You have to ask, what are you considering to be the most important thing as you're picking a university? And Bill Bedenbaugh has as strong a track record as just about anybody in the collegiate game. And we're probably going to see another highly sought after, highly thought of offensive tackle get taken highly again in the 2025 NFL draft. And that's Jacob Sexton. Now, he might play guard for you this year, but a lot of people project him to be a starting tackle in the NFL. And so while we sit here and we, get upset a little bit about the loss of a 4-star prospect or missing out on a 4-star prospect, let's not forget there are 4-star prospects on the roster that are going to be taking significant steps this year and becoming starters. That's Jacob Sexton, Jake Taylor. Those guys are going to be starters for you. And then you're going to have guys like Eugene Brooks and Eddie Pierre-Louis coming up behind them, or a Josh Bates or a Heath Ozida. So there are blue chip offensive linemen on this roster that are in the developmental process, right? And everybody's developmental path is a little bit different. But we're going to start seeing those guys become significant players on the roster. Now, this year, you're going to have a transfer portal offensive line. Probably 3/5 of your offensive line will be transfer portal guys. But after that, I mean, there's a very good chance that your entire offensive line, save for maybe 4/5 of your offensive line, is made up of guys that Bill Bedenbaugh has recruited and developed. And that's going to be a beautiful sight to see. But again, Oklahoma turning their attention to Michael Fasusi, going to continue to press that and try to get that 5-star commitment. And, hey, when it happens, we'll have it covered here on Locked On Sooners. Thanks so much for tuning in and being a part of the show. Subscribe to the show wherever you podcast. We're free and available on all podcast platforms and on YouTube. So hit that notification bell to let you know when new episodes drop. Subscribe on Apple, Google, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Subscribe to the show and drop us a 5-star rating and review as well. For your next listen, Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and now it's also available on Amazon Fire TV in the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today now available on the free Fire TV channels app. I'm John Williams. You can follow me on Twitter at John9Williams. The show is at Locked On Sooners. You can follow it on Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, what have you. You can follow us on all the socials, anywhere you get your podcast. But until next time, for Jay Smith, enjoying a nice little vacation, I'm John Williams. We'll catch you next time. Boomer Sooner.